motion to approve tonight's agenda? Are there any questions? Okay. Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Weedman?
Aye.
Braden? Aye. LaCroy?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have any public comments this evening? We'll move right into board reports. If anyone has anything they'd like to chat about, I would like to mention that for the mission last time, it's on Sunday at Golden State. It's been a while. Is that between the last meeting and now? I don't know. Okay. Then they Frederick and GMS and Park, all three that participate, all three are going to state. So, and that happens in the middle of April. Always a good time.
I'll give a quick update on CEDAL because we had our most recent executive meeting. If you haven't had a chance, I know Ellen included the newsletter in the weekly update, and there's a lot of good info in that. But there is an art show coming up at the Sid Lash Academy in Gages Lake School the weekend of March 23rd and 24th, so I think that's this weekend. So if you're around, certainly pop over there. It's similar to the art show here. And that's it, but things are going well.
Thank you.
This week we had a meeting with the taxing bodies in town regarding the harbor lighting. As you saw my rather lengthy report on what happened. So I think it was a productive meeting. I think we came to some consensus with some good ideas of what might come out of there. And we have John and the business manager from the high school and then the village trying to work some common ground together. I assume when that gets done, we'll have a further report on that. I know we're going to talk about it later today too.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
So I know it was hard to find parking tonight, but we are having conferences both tonight and tomorrow night at all our buildings. And just to piggyback a little bit from what Jim was talking about, we are, as a result of that meeting, it was suggested that this group get together quarterly just to see what's going on in the village, with, whatever else, so that we can have a more collaborative relationship than we've had in the past. When I first got here, we were doing that, and it sort of fell by the wayside, so I think that'll be good. So I'll make sure Lynn knows it and Sue, so that we can try to get those dates on the calendar. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. We have committee reports.
The diversity committee had a subcommittee meet last week, and the whole goal was to sort of do some protocol, or not really a policy, but how we would deal with transgender and gender non-conforming students. So we worked very hard, and we've got a draft that went out. We'll try to get that back together and then go meet with the whole committee before we share with anybody else. So it was a great group, worked really hard. The Evaluation Assessment Committee, I think Tom has a report on that. But we got Tom, you walked in just in time.
The Curriculum Committee, Evaluation Assessment Curriculum.
Should I talk about that first?
Perfect. So Tom's just asked me to share some of the information from the Assessment Evaluation Committee. We first talked about all of the state assessments that were happening. So we have completed, much to all the appreciation to Amanda for all of her hard work. The Illinois Science Assessment has been completed. We're checking that off at the moment as of today, so this is really good news. And then the 5 Essentials window closed on Friday, and so it'll be a while before we get any of those results, but those were assessments for kids to do in many grades, but not all. But parents and teachers all will take those, and so it is part of our ESSA designation. So last year everyone got a waiver about that score. This year it will be added in as 5% of the overall.
Just the student response.
The student response, just 5% of the overall designation. We also talked about the Illinois Assessment of Readiness. That window opened on the 11th. We have chosen as a district not to take that assessment until after spring break. We have heard from our fellow districts that the people who started did have some issues this past week, and we thought with conference week it was not the right week to do a state assessment. So that one will be after spring break. Thankfully, we have a very condensed schedule, so it'll feel differently than what we've had in the past because we're able to use our new Chromebooks for everyone to test. And so instead of having to schedule time in the lab for each class, we're able to do whole grade levels, whole wings, whole group of grade, whole building, whole grade levels all at the same time. So it won't feel like we're dragging on for weeks and weeks. So that's a really very positive thing. So those were the things we talked about the state assessments.
Okay, the reason I want to call to do all that, because many times as I've written all this down, I try to reproduce it myself. And I think I'm reasonably intelligent, but it's awfully hard to do that. And so I think as a board member, I want to go over to the top of the thing and appreciate all the work everyone's doing for a very local cause. I'm suggesting to the board that perhaps we can join with some other board leadership and complain to the state about what I see as sometimes a waste of time for those people who are having conflicts, not getting the results out to us so these people can use them. The worst one was the science that was, they went around 1 year and they actually lapped us. The lapping means in Indianapolis you went around the guy twice. That's ridiculous. And if you give an 8th grader a test in 8th grade and he takes the test and goes to high school, what are we supposed to do? Round them up when they're spring into 9th grade year and say, hey guy, you want to hear how you did in the science grade when you was 2 years old? That's got to stop. So, Mr. President, I would like us to at least look into that. There's got to be some pressure, new governor, whatever, to give people some help who are doing a lot of work.
Yeah, we could certainly, I mean, I'm sure 127 is the same, all the schools around here are going to have the same complaint, so.
Would that be something that would be kind of addressed in the rules committee or whatever, kind of like the triple I?
Yeah, that was a resolution.
Proposal or a resolution or a resolution or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I would think would fall under that sort of.
I can check with Dee Molinari and see how we would do something
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, and I don't remember when they're not due yet. So.
No, but if I could please get ahead.
They can put together a resolution and join some other school districts to support and submit it. Because then at least we have the association also lobbying on our behalf for that.
And not just us.
Not just us, or the district.
So for the new Illinois Assessment of Readiness, that has been part of their RFP, their request for proposals, that the results are meant to come back faster because they've known that it's an issue. We'll just have to wait and see if it happens, if it comes to fruition. That's the hard part.
And everything I can see, their administration of these tests are fine, and boxing them up, and all that sort of thing. All those things are done very well. Another thing after that, we had some discussion on things you hear. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had the regional science Olympiad situation out at CLC, and I talked to some parents there. And the word lab came up to see what's going on with labs. And by the time this end of the story will be short, but it points out to me how you better make sure you know what you're talking about for words, rather than just saying the words mean the same thing they did when I was in school. And so my question was, how many labs do we do? Well, what does lab mean? Well, lab. You have a situation, you conjecture something about it, you experiment, you write it up, or a conclusion. It turns out, as I looked at the curriculum that we used, there are words that will say something about an experiment, something about an observation, and something about whatever it is. And so I was given the materials that are involving the unit, and I find that there are what I call actually lab in there. They just don't call it that. So in my mind, at this point, we're still doing labs, and that's a complaint of college people that they know that this course is high school all the way up to high school too. But we are doing labs, and we are getting kids here to do these things. So if you hear in the public that they don't do labs anymore in school, use it as a general statement. Check and see what you mean by lab. You may find out they're really doing pretty much the same thing that you thought it was a lab. So I learned that. So that's good.
It's good to learn.
We did have a policy committee meeting as
Oh,
well. Sue gave us like a list of, it seemed like 500 policies we had to look at. Most of them were just the changes in the footnotes. So we kind of discussed, and we'll kind of take a consensus, I guess. We kind of discussed about not bringing all those ones that are just footnotes to the board to read and go through, because they're just footnotes and save a few trees. But bring the ones that had any actual changes to it because of the law changed or whatever it was. If that was okay with everybody else, I think that's how we were gonna move forward with that. She can still provide a list of which ones that we were looking at that has just footnote changes, so you know those are gonna just kind of blankly go through, but anything else would be provided. That's all right. So they may have changed the reference law or something along those lines. But
Yes.
nothing that made any impact inside the policy. No wording was changed inside the policy except for footnotes.
And most of the ones that we see are, that's, at least, that's what they are. It's a legal reference has changed, or a section number has changed, or they changed the title of something. So they're pretty minor changes. Once in a while we see a new policy that they've produced. Once in a while we see something where they change a whole bunch of sections in something, but most of the time it's just footnotes. Okay. Then if I could have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, including the addendum to the personnel report.
Move.
Any questions?
Braden. LaCroy. Strack.
Aye.
Mesco.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our action items, I just have a handful tonight. Could I have a motion to approve the E-rate recommendation?
I'll second.
And that was?
That was the Comcast interconnect between all of the buildings, and then the battery backup units for all the network closets.
It all increases our current capacity between all buildings, correct?
Correct. And what it does is it takes away our reliance on the radio towers due to bad weather, wind, or ice, or rain, or anything like that, because it's leased fiber under the ground.
Thank you.
Weedman.
Aye.
Mesco. Mack.
Aye.
Braden. LaCroy. Strack.
Aye. Motion carries. Could I have a motion to approve the contract with Manival for a walkway at Prairie View School at a cost of $22,945?
I'll move.
Any questions? This is for a walkway from the building to
For the pre-K.
the pre-K playground? Yeah.
Those two individuals
Was in fact too good to make sure.
backed out of performing the service, so. I have the contract here in front of me.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Braden. Strack.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Mesco.
Aye.
Motion carries. Could I have a motion to approve the recommendation of a 3-year contract for Paul Lewis, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching, Learning, and Assessment?
Second.
Any questions?
Strack.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Braden. LaCroy.
Aye.
Mesco. Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, if I can, a motion to approve the recommendation of Chris Volk as Human Resources Director.
So moved. Second.
Any questions?
Just explain it.
If I can, I can. It's Chris is moving from being basically half principal at Avon and Human Resources. I don't remember exactly what the title was, but
It was an HR director, it's
HR.
only for 1 day a week, 4
right,
days a week. He was
basically part-time HR director, and now he will be our full-time HR director for the district.
Mack,
Aye.
Braden. Strack,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Masco.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Chris. Unfinished business. First is the hardware expansion, as Jim alluded to earlier.
So as Mr. Weedman said earlier, we had a meeting with the various local governing agencies. And I would echo his sentiments that it was a very productive meeting. We had a lot of opportunity to express our concerns and frustrations, I would say, with how some of the process has gone, but we've also had some excellent opportunities for having some clarifications given as well. So at this point, I would say that District 127 and District 46 has some concerns with some of the numbers that were presented, with things like what the assessment would be if they added the $1.6 million. Just because they add $1.6 million doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's going to be assessed at. And just juggling some of the financials of how do we, if we were to offer an incentive, how do we do that while only affecting the new property instead of going into their existing property?
Some of the concern with 127 he brought up was if you put it on the existing property, the abatement on the existing property, that would tend to erode the EAV of the district in the long run. So they were worried about some of that happening, and hence the reason why we talked about putting it onto the new construction only, because that's growth, and the base would still stay where it's at, so that you wouldn't lose that in the long run. We did discuss the benefits of, there would still be an increase in tax dollars coming into the school district. While it wouldn't be as much as whatever is assessed on it, it would be a portion of it. It would still be growth in tax dollars overall to the district, and it wouldn't be a loss, provided if the building had gone vacant and the company leased out. There is an impact that they had on the community. It was pointed out by Mayor Taylor that they are one of the biggest users of the Grays Lake feed sales, buy a lot of stuff from them, the hotels in town, the food places in town. So there's an impact for them leaving, whereas we could stave that off as well. We talked about trying to be good partners in the community with everybody, as well as, as we go along here. So, the other part is we talked about having quarterly meetings. Is we also talked about maybe having, this would kind of set up a template for similar type of things that might happen of how it should go about, and not just kind of tossed at us. So it definitely opened up the line of communication by having that meeting. So, and like I said, you have my 3-page email from me. So
Yeah, I think our 127 is still going to be working on this, and I believe they want to work with us to figure out, so we're on the same page, and we come to essentially the same sort of agreement with them, minimizing the impact on the district, and still being able to provide some sort of incentive. Personally, I'm still not a huge fan of the whole idea of doing that. I understand the math of it, so I think we need to continue to take a look at it. But there's still a lot of moving parts. The percentage of that the incentive would be, the duration of the abatement, the potential for including criteria that Harger would have to meet in order to receive a certain percentage of abatement, the potential for Harger providing to both districts funding for athletic equipment or STEM projects or Science Olympiad things or theater lighting or things, anything. So there's a lot of things that we could still, I think, would be within our rights to ask about. So given that and the possibility of that also I think helps to offset any impact that we have. So, but again, there's no timeline on this. At least no hard timeline that I'm aware of.
no, they were looking to try and get it done as soon as possible, because it sounded like Harger wanted to start moving on their project quickly. But again, the whole thing has to get vetted out. Mayor Taylor and Mike Ellis said that they would reach out to them and let them know where the process is so that they know something could potentially happen.
What are we being asked to consider?
I think the letter was anywhere from, well, the original ask, I believe, was 50 to 100% on the current property, correct?
Correct.
So then we kind of all balked at, to be honest with you, about having that happen. That's why we started the discussions about putting it on the new property only, you know, probably no more than 50% of the new growth. But again, there's a lot of moving parts of where that'll go. So I think that's probably where the ask is at this point, is somewhere between, you know, probably 25 to 50%. Is probably somewhere in that range is where we're at, but I think the 127 and Park District and us were probably saying no more than 50% on the new growth. As we said before, you know, it's not unprecedented. They did something with the new growth with FedEx, but that was a brand new building. That was empty farmland. It's a little different than a current building. It was a little bit easier. The village has worked hard to keep businesses in town. You know, Flag Chevrolet, to bring Okabe, to bring Saya Trucking, to, you know, and they don't ask us very often for this. They've been able to offset the costs by rebating different things. You know, the village has a lot more revenue streams than we do. So they can do sales tax, they can do construction fees, they can do whole, you know, plan review fees and cut costs that way for these buildings where, you know, this Harbor Electric does not have, they don't create any sales tax. So that's not an avenue for them to do that with. So this is kind of a different ask for them. I think if they could have done it on their own, they probably would have. But we'll, you know, see how that goes as far as that goes. And like I said, there's a lot of moving parts at this point.
I think we should also consider creating a policy that will govern how the district handles these sorts of requests. You know, so like you set certain criteria they have to meet, certain parameters within which the you know, the abatement would have to be, requiring it to be only on new construction or, you know, whatever it would be. But you know, this is not going to be the last request we're going to get. So regardless of what the village might say, that party will have more businesses asking for it. So I think we should be prepared for that and create a policy around it so that we can.
Just really expected timing and lead time if nothing else.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
you know, I've gotten some feedback that this should be a no-brainer, and I just, regardless, again, of where it lands, it deserves careful consideration and hearing all perspectives, and that takes a little time.
And it should be on our timeline for what the district is comfortable with, not on their timeline. So.
I agree with that. I think it's undue criticism of the district to take our time to think about it when we have the right to discuss something of that nature, and that lead time is very important to us. And I was going to reiterate that I think the criticism is unfounded for us to be able to sit and discuss this. It's important to our students, important to our families.
I'd like to second or third that. I mean, it's a leverage play, and we should be accorded the time to really make sure we understand and agree with the actions we're going to take.
I agree. Anything else?
I said this last meeting, but always keep in mind it's a lot easier to keep a customer than it is to go out and recruit a brand new individual. And we got to be careful of how we think about those things. One other comment about just in general about meeting with the other governing bodies. When I ran for this office, I talked with someone who ran for the high school district and someone who ran for the city council. And we agreed to get together periodically and to shoot the breeze about things. Well, it turned out that one of them, when it became known to her boss that we were going to do this, didn't think too much of it in rather direct terms. And so she was almost forbidden to do such a thing. But the other person from the council and myself have met once in a while about this, that, and the other. And I think it's a great idea. And I think down the road, it ought to be all right to just talk about what's going on in your council, how does it affect the other ones, and go from there. So,
Absolutely. I mean,
we're not clandestine operations trying to defend ourselves against the other two.
I agree.
What are the next steps then? Are we redoing our consent?
The three, John, Mike Zellick, and a member of the village will be meeting, trying to put some of these things in places to bring back for us to look at.
And we'll keep working toward whatever resolution we end up with, basically. But, I mean, it's not gonna happen next week. It's,
I would say that was made very clear at the meeting of, this isn't something that we can have a fast answer on. I mean, obviously, Harger is interested in making a decision, but as long as, the feedback that we were receiving is as long as Harger knew that this was something that was being discussed and we were making some form of progress of working on it, they were willing to delay their decision to see what the governing bodies had. They just, I think their original March 1st deadline was they didn't want it to be something that, not to speak on behalf of Harger, but they didn't want it to be something that, you know, a year later we're still talking about it. So when we expressed to them that this is going to take some time, we have to go over these numbers, we're going to have to take some more time to consider this, it seemed like the feedback was Harger was okay with that.
Yeah, the big thing is getting the numbers down. They said the county was changing their assessment software at the time, so they're not even up and running at this point. So to get true and fast numbers out of the county about what the impact would be is going to be was a little bit difficult in the last couple of weeks. So they were, I know, delicately working on that. So.
You know, another thing to think about is what our reputation becomes in this city for new businesses. We can be very pleasant and smile and not say no, but if they look 4 months later, nothing has happened, but we still smile with each other. These companies may say, well, perhaps there's another place we should look to expand. So there are a lot of big things that we're doing here right now that have far-reaching impact long after any one of us are off the board.
Any other comments? Okay. Park campus traffic study.
So we reached out to our engineering firm at your request and received an estimate for $3,000 for them to analyze the traffic flow around the park. And while that's underneath, obviously, the threshold to receive approval, I know this is something that's been on the board's radar. So I just wanted to mention that we have an estimate, and unless there's strong opposition, we'll be proceeding with the traffic estimate at park.
I don't think there's any opposition.
Sounds good.
Then we'll go
It
forward.
was actually less than what Frederick was.
Yeah, that was
Because obviously Frederick had 2 lots to go deal with. So we'll begin work on that as soon as possible.
Okay. Yeah, it has to be before the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it was a contract for not to exceed $3,000, so it might even be less.
Update on unpaid lunch and registration fee balances.
As mentioned in the letter, in consultation with Ellen and with our legal team, I believe we have the policies that we need. There's no real need for any further board action on moving forward with collections.
In a nutshell, to refresh my memory on, I'm a kid who, I'm behind and we haven't paid my lunch and I'm hungry. What happens to me at noon and I don't have anything I need to eat?
You get food.
You get food.
You will get food.
Okay. Not just a cold cheese sandwich, you will get whatever meal every other kid is getting.
That was important to us.
What processes are you using for collections then?
At this point, it's just going to be a more concerted and organized effort from our registrar and from the business office to communicate with parents on the outstanding balances, and it's going to be part of more of a monthly report internally of where we are at with different collection months. There hasn't been any other conversations about outside collections, if that makes sense.
Have we thought about, and I was thinking about this, not just in terms of lunch fees, but in terms of registration fees, adding a function where people can contribute to help out. Like we do with the Park District, you know, when you register for a Park District program, you can add $5 onto your registration for kind of scholarship fund. Have we ever looked into, I was even thinking for registration, or do we have other mechanisms for people, you know, just a thought for how we might
Great idea.
Yeah.
Look into that, thanks.
I don't know how the park district does it, but it's very easy to do, so.
Yeah, we can check with them.
Yeah.
I see things, there's some lecture you want to go to or whatever. Would you like to put something in extra for those who say they'd love to go but they can't afford it? See?
I think people are very generous in that regard. Happy to help.
I'm happy to look into that.
Okay, thank you. New business? Summer construction at Prairie View.
So in addition to the walkway going to the back, that's already obviously going to be moving forward, but we're going to be working with our architect role to start getting a bid process together for the parking lots. They're in pretty bad shape at Prairie View. We're probably going to be looking at, we'll try to bid out the whole lot, but most likely we'll end up doing, based upon costs, the bus lot this year and then the staff parking lot in the roundabout the following next fiscal year. So that's just giving you more updated information from our last meeting. You'll probably hear more from us at the next meeting about bid process and that sort of information.
When we did Frederick School a couple years ago, we used a different process instead of, I forget what it was off the top of my head, but it saved us quite a bit of money. But
We went with the engineer firm rather than going through.
Are you talking about the
the construction, Keith
No,
probably
more
can remember
about
more
this.
than I can.
We pulverized the existing parking lot, all of what we didn't need, and hacked down the pulverized parking lot, the hacked down with our asphalt grindings, and then haul out what they don't need, and it saves them grinding and hauling out and then hauling gravel back in when they need to have it.
Is that a process we can do?
We've done that, Avon, View, and it's been holding up very well.
So that's our process, or this one again. I just want to make sure we're kind of, at least being consistently looking at trying to save as much as we can when we do this project.
Is it, can we just patch sections, or is this, do we need to replace?
This has been patched. If you go out there and look at it, this
Yeah,
has
I know,
been
it's
patched quite a bit.
Prairie technically, Frederick should be first, but Frederick's parking lot is in better shape than first. I'm going back 8 foot parking lot. There's a 2-year difference between the two. But the bus lane is really starting to fill for, and there's, I don't even know what it would cost to patch. I don't even know where to start. There's, as they call it, alligator in the, especially with the buses turn in that circle in the front. Patch manholes. That is one I would really like to get, do like we've done at the rest of the schools, and each year following 2 little sections and get them back up to par.
And even though the parking lot's technically younger than Frederick, I think some of the bidding process will be addressing some of the drainage issues for it as well. I don't think there was sufficient drainage structures, is my understanding.
I'll alleviate some of the water that sits on the north end of the parking lot and the bus lane.
And so we do, you said we do part of the parking lot this summer and then part next summer?
What we're gonna do is
Or fiscal.
cast the net wide, right?
Yeah.
Let's see how much it would cost for us to do everything.
Yeah.
Then we're also, the way we can structure the bid will show us, how much would it cost for us to just do the bus lot? How much would it cost for us just to do the circle? How much would it cost for us just to do?
So alternates, depending on what we want to do.
So 2 of the one alternate, if 2 of the alternates together match our number that we've got, you can do those 2 sections. It kind of lets us pick and choose, to try to stay within the budget number.
And if financially it just makes sense to knock all 3 out at one time, then that's, that'll be a recommendation I can bring at that point.
Just out of curiosity, and if you happen to know, how much more expensive is concrete than asphalt?
I don't know if I can find out. I know it's more money, but it is a.
Lasts longer.
Yeah, no, that's the only reason I
By
asked.
all means,
Yeah.
but I don't know. if we-
My guess is it's a lot more expensive, but
Oh, I would love to have all back here.
how about brick? We could do brick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I know before my time, this was part of what Ellen and Chris and Keith had gotten together on and put in for the budget for this year. But even after I'd come in October, the three of us had met again, and this was part of our plans even as recently as October. The parking lot's just not in great shape. This is something we really need to tackle this summer. So it's for sure in the budget for this year.
Is there any plans to do any other patching in any of the other parking lots, at least patching wise, that might have problems?
The bid will ask for unit costs, as they call it, so that we can do some picking and choosing, and I'll do a comparison against the unit costs with some of the other companies that we use. And sometimes the bid costs us some of the upcharge of the unit costs, just because they have low lines and moves, and I'm very companies that are interested in doing that.
And we still have the steel coating for Frederick. We'll be here in the spring, as soon as the weather gets the right temperature.
Steel coating / new striping?
Yeah, and new striping, yes.
You don't want them to paint around the usage. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Keith. Renewal of the medical and dental insurance for FY 1920.
This is everybody's favorite subject, right?
No.
That's not even by everybody.
It's like pulling teeth to discuss this.
But
You see that girl coming, but you just can't get out of the way.
So in consultation with our insurance brokerage firm, GCG, we are recommending, it's been recommended that we have a 4.5% decrease to our overall HMO medical for Blue Cross Blue Shield. And for our PPO, it's going to be a 7.9% increase. That's both for the high deductible health plan and for our self-funded PPO. For dental, it would be another year of just a flat 0% for our HMO and our PPO. I know in the past, it's been brought to the board for consideration of a co-op, or discussions have been started for a co-op. At this time, some of the conversations that we had with GCG, we felt it was better for us to give it one more year and let some things settle internally inside of the co-op that we were considering joining, as well as just looking at if the co-op 90 was what it was referred to, is the best co-op for us to join in general. So we'll be looking at that a little bit more in the late summer this year instead of trying to address it in the spring right now.
Do you have any idea what the difference in the cost of the premiums would be if we were in a co-op? I mean, how significant is that difference?
You knew you were going to have to come up with it.
It wouldn't be an apples-to-apples comparison, I think is the best way to describe it. For things like our high deductible health plan PPO, we cover 100% after you reach the deductible, and for the co-op it's 80%. So there's just some benefit changes that I think would be, it would be in our best interest to try to have this conversation over an extended period of time with the union, so we're not making a change to their benefit structure mid-negotiations.
Right. But, so my question is, I guess then, so if the premium right now for a teacher, for the family is $2,600 and change, how is this going to impact that cost for them? Significant, but, and so how significant would that reduction be?
I didn't really pull up any information.
That's okay.
But it would be, there was an
questions? All the time. All right, thank you. That's it. Future agenda items?
We'll have hopefully have a bid process for Prairie View. What else? Pardon me? Harder, oh yeah, continued harder, yeah.
Do we have, staffing? That could be on there?
If there were any staff that we needed terminate, it would be on the next agenda. So,
Are any programs endangered?
no. Oh, right, curriculum renewals, right.
This isn't necessarily for a future agenda item, but I was thinking today, I can't remember when our bonds are up.
2024.
2024 is when they're paid off?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. I thought it was around, it was 2023, but.
It's kind of structured for a tier drop off at that point. There's 2023, 2024, 2025.
Okay. Just thinking about it today. I
It's
don't know why.
it's like a year or two behind high school.
Yeah.
Well, the high school will drop off, and then the grade schools will drop
Yeah,
off.
22, right?
And I think they said they had 3 more years left of the bonds on the high school for North Campus. Well, those will drop off the tax rolls, and then, well, provided that they don't extend them, but that's up to them. And then same with whatever future board decisions here, it'll either drop off completely off the tax rolls, or depending on need of the school district, if the next board decides to do something with it. I won't be here in 2025, so.
All right. Any public comments? Okay. I don't think we, oh, sorry. Would you mind grabbing a mic so that you can check? And if you give us your name as well.
So, my name is Yana Dalton. I have 2 kids at Meadowview. Love the school. Thank you so much for giving them the recess this year. But I found out that recess and lunch together are 40 minutes. So, with the transition time, kind of comes down to maybe 35, 30. So it's between recess and lunch. My kids come to school, come home from school sometimes with lunch uneaten or unfinished. Just the rushing of it. I was wondering if the board would consider extending this time, or maybe adding an additional recess. There's a plethora of evidence from all kinds of sources that kind of daydreaming time and free play time adds to the quality of learning. We may take from the quantity of it, but the brain, the neuroscience research, the Institute of, Neuroscience Institute, American Society of Pediatrics, everybody agrees that more recess seems to be working in favor of more learning. So we kind of shifted towards more quantity away from quality. So I was just wondering if that could be put on some future agenda to just either extend the time that they have to free play and daydream and consolidate the stuff that they're learning and process it, or maybe add an additional 20 minutes at some point, because they do spend 5 hours and 30 minutes a day of solid cognitive rigor. And for those developing brains, even for us, we can't even sit in a meeting for an hour without just, shifting off somewhere. So we can't expect them to be 5.5 hours of paying attention and learning constantly. So, got it.
Thank you. Could you leave your contact information?
No.
Oh.
Good.
Could you, yeah, the way of a sheet over there. Thank you.
The only other thing I think of for the future, we might have an update on negotiations,
Okay.
because we should have a meeting April 1st, I think, is when we decided that. That's where Stephen and I and John will be going over the finances with the 2 unions, giving them all the information that they've been asked for.
Just a overview and making sure everyone's on the same page, I think, so.
We have to follow up on the medical and dental insurance. Again, yes.
Okay.
And then I think policies will probably be.
Yes, policies will be,
Oh, yeah.
just the first look, first reading of the policies. We started off with one, it's just a lot now.
Give us time to think about it.
Wrapped up, or is that still down the road?
Summer school, we've got, everybody's assigned, to the supervisor part, and we're looking for teachers for Frederick, and we're getting pretty close to having all that done.
I don't think we need a closed session,
No.
so if I could have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
LaCroy, Meskel,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Braden.
Thank you.